All right, before the break, we looked at some server-side scripting. I was hoping to do that last week, but that's a useful one. Just write stuff to a text file and save some data. For most of y'all's projects, a basic contact list can be in there. Or enter your email and then receive a monthly newsletter or something. You want to save that stuff for different reasons. You might need to save some data, but a very useful thing. That's gonna be my recommendation when we get to lab time today. There's gonna be a lot of it. There's a list here. The numbers. There's a list with 7 things I want to talk about. It's a very, very important. It's a very critical thing. Just as critical as making a nice website. Because no matter how nice your website is, if nobody knows about it, it doesn't do any good. Search engine optimization, or SEO. That's such a common thing, that acronym. I've heard people that have very, very, very few technical skills use SEO correctly. So we want people to use our websites. They're not going to see our site on a billboard and then go look it up. Actually, we're not going to do that. They have to scan a QR code. They might do that. Might scan a QR code, but they're not going to look at what the address is. The only way they're coming back to that is if they walk past that flyer and scan the QR code again. To find websites, they're going to go to Google and start looking for one. So we need to be up near the top of that page. The very top of Google's an advertising company. Talked about that before. People lose sight of that. What Google actually is just a middleman between advertisers and software developers that have a place where text can be placed. That's the main focus of what that is. So right at the top, the very top of the results are the ads that people paid Google to be at the top of certain searches. So that one's easy, just pay Google. And from the list that I want to talk about here, don't make them mad, because that's something that shows up. So we want Google, other search engines to find our site. And we don't want to be on page 3 of the search results. We're going to be way up at the top. So there are a number of things we can try to do to raise the ranking. And that's what SEO is. Optimizing how it goes through. So the first, and this is in order, or this is a ranked list, not a bulleted list. So the first thing is indexable content. That doesn't look like the word content. We try that again. Indexable content, which really means our HTML text. So some of y'all will know what this what the word means if I say that markup languages are processed as a tree to the computer. So without those tags, we can't identify the various data on them. We saw that very briefly at the beginning of that PHP example. Right? There were no tags and we had no way of styling those words we had to go back. When we add tags in, then it can identify just that set of words, and that's style rules to it. Well, bots are the same way. The search bots need that, need it to be indexable. It needs to be able to sort through it. It needs to identify the different data on the page and go through it. So we need to see all of that. Put info. What I have in my notes is put info in HTML. So you can have some words that don't really show it, right? Like the various things that we might not care whether the search bots see it or not, but we definitely want the information there. because they're gonna run that through a whole bunch of selection structures. They're gonna grab all of our data, look for special words, connect things together, mark it out. It's a long process. The reason it seems so quick when we search for things is because they already do that. We have to notify Google that we have a site that we want to include in the searches. And then they send out a bot to do that. We should look at how we do that before we wrap up today. It's really easy. It's another one of those Google pages we go to, and we just give them the URL, and then they give us this file. They give us an HTML file to copy and paste into our directory, and then the bots go over there and everything else afterwards. Really easy, but supplement non-text with descriptions. So we saw that with the image tags and the alt text, or the alt attribute for, we talked about visually impaired people, but do bots have eyes? They won't have a clue what that image is. Some of the machine learning things are getting better at recognizing pictures, but they're not used extensively yet. So for the time being, and still probably into the future, you probably want to have both. So, because even when they get good at recognizing images, there's probably going to be a subtle thing there of which images get ignored and which ones are important to the data, which ones are important. Provide a transcript for videos. I guess that goes with this. Transcript for videos. And remember that a search bot is just a script that we're going to pass our data into. So we need to be able to break it down, make it all identifiable, including images and videos. Straightforward thing there, but the stuff we've been studying this semester, that does rank as the most important thing. 2 is going to be links from other pages. These are viewed as endorsements, is the reason why. Viewed as endorsements. If you don't want to endorse another page, but you're going to link to it on your site, there's an attribute on the link. Or relevance is no follow. I'll put that up here. To not endorse and your anchor tag, put relevance equal to, is there a dash in it? Oh, nowhere. No follow. So in your anchor tag, put no follow, and then your link doesn't endorse the other side, you can read next to it. Do not try to control this. We want these things to happen, but don't manipulate it. Don't go make 500 pages that all link to your page. That will personally offend the people that write the search bots. And all of the do nots I put up here are the big ones here. Because it's kind of like, it's when we try to control it. If we try to control it directly, there's a great example. It was early in this search engines really started to take off. One of the things was keywords. So somebody realized that if they wrote the word motorcycle 10,000 times on their website, and then made it white text with a white background, it didn't impact their site at all. But the search bots would see the word motorcycle show up 10,000 times on their site. That's what is meant by do not try to control it. Do not try to do anything out of the ordinary that would manipulate search bots. They take that personally offensive. They take personal offense to it. The programmers that created the search bots, and they will hard code in your search results after that. And where you fall on the list will probably be 7 or 8 digits at least when they hard coded it. You'll be way down the list. And they're Google, so they'll remember that, right? You have to do. In our modern world, you probably have trouble even deleting all your social media accounts and coming up with a fake persona to try to do different web pages later to get past them after you after that happened once. Right, our world's connected. They're going to know. Engines look for folks that just do that. Like that is one that the bots automatically search for. If they suspect that they went ahead and hard coded that in, if they suspect it's a fake site, just for the purposes of endorsing the actual site, yeah, they get personally offended. The third one is keywords. These aren't used as often as they once were, but let me say that. There's a meta tag. There's a meta tag for keywords. And 15 years ago, I guess maybe up to about 10 years ago, that was where it looked for keywords. Lots have improved since then. So keywords in the content. There used to be a meta tag that we would put in there, and sometimes you'll see these lists and say the keywords aren't used anymore. But keywords is the meta, like if we just said keyword, maybe computer cells, monitors, keyboard, chair, desk, right? Though those were just a list of words would go in a meta tag, and the search bots would spot those. Search bots improve, so we want keywords in context. I'll just leave it at that. So make sure you use the keywords in the paragraphs and in labels and in the indexable content where it matters. The search bots will see those keywords just like the unit. Yeah, keywords were highly abused in the past. People would end up with keywords lists that were like 1,000 keywords long. And again, they found ways to kind of work around them, like the motorcycle example. They put that in context means the human that looks at the page can see it. So don't put it in white text on a white background. Yeah, so again, that's one that has personally offended the developers before, so they will look for it. I guess I need to move the camera over. Oh, for a little board, I can at least put another section here. And these are all the things we want to do. So this is what we've been studying, is we build websites, they link together. That's the core idea of it. So get your name out there. We looked at Google AdSense and Google Ads. That's what I looked at both of them. AdSense is the one that pays us, and Google Ads is the one we have to pay to get people to come to our web. So that our advertisement shows up on other people's web pages. But that helps with that right there. Because no matter which way the ad goes, Google makes money. So they're really happy about that one. The fifth one is meta tags, metadata.
What about the fourth?
Oh, thank you. The fourth one is title tags. You'll notice that I put a title tag on every single example we did this semester. Because that's what humans look like. That's what humans look at. A lot of people there's a lot of people that never close browser tabs. So that's how they have to jump back and forth between the sites. They've been there before and they can see the title up there in that tab. So don't pass 60 to 70 characters. And probably want a lot shorter than that. Get a count of characters, see what the default size is. It's okay to run over a little, people are used to that. But then when several tabs are open, those tabs get smaller and smaller and smaller. So think about the space you have available in that tab. And definitely you wouldn't want to pass 60 to 70 characters, because at that point the bots will start ignoring it. They'll stop reading it just like a human would. It's like, that's too long of a title. I'm done reading that title. So they went ahead and programmed that into the search bots. Try to be descriptive. Be descriptive. And use keywords here. That's the way we want to use keywords. Like one or two at a time in the title tag where the human would see it. Because it's an important thing. Branding. We never did look at fave icons, did we?
Book covered it.
I want to make sure and look at that. Yeah, that's the fave icon. I meant to look at that when we looked at images, but the little picture that goes in the tab, that's an important one. For a lot of people, that's more important than the words there. I know I do. Whenever I have a bunch of tabs open, like in my office, I look at that picture just to jump back and forth between them. And only if there's, well, like in my office, there's usually a couple Ivy Tech things. So I can quickly narrow down to the Ivy Tech tabs and then look at the title. A lot of things, there's only going to be one of those pictures up there. Branding, if possible. Which branding includes words and stuff too, but logos are way better for that. That's a picture's worth 1,000 words. So the fifth thing is going to be our meta tags. Which the book covers, I was going to look at it in a moment. Keywords still exist, and it does get looked at, but it doesn't count for much. So I'm going to leave the metadata keywords off this list. Bots look at it, but it does not count much at all. The big one you want is description. And this one I'll actually show you why. We have at least our most recent example. Or I can probably find something really quick. Let me go to Ivy Tech. Got a new site, just got a new site at Ivy Tech. So let's see if we view page source. There's a content management one. CMS stuff, there's a bunch going on. Oh, actually, we recognize a whole lot of this one. Actually, on the homepage, there's no straightforward with it, but right up at the top in the head section, there's this metadata. The name of this metadata is description. That's the main one you want. Notice it says Ivy Tech Community College offers associates, degrees, certificates, and that's probably enough to see what's going on there. We'll leave that highlighted because if we come over here and search for Ivy Tech, I think that's a highlight of the same thing. The search box, that's what shows up on the search. So that's what the user is actually gonna read. Description. User sees this in the search. So that's where you have one sentence that's actually going to show up on that Google web search. So that's where you have, well, you don't know how much space is there. I feel confident everybody's done the search before, right? That's where you have that much space to convince the user. That's the space you get to convince somebody to come to your site. If you don't, it will pull a random paragraph. It will find whatever keyword connected it to that search and pull that up. But you don't want to rely on random. You don't want to rely on a computer algorithm doing something random to promote your site. You basically get one sentence. You all know how much space is available for you. But one sentence that's going to show up on that page, and that goes in your that goes in the metadata tag for name is description, content equals all of that. This is probably almost ideal if we did a word count here. If we did a letter count here, I bet this one is right on. Copy that. I assume my text editor has a count. Tools. Oh, go to. Oh, Google Docs has a counter in it. I'm sure there's a button there. I just don't know where it's at. I don't do that very often in code. But if I paste that, and where's the character count here? It's under edit, right? Nope. Yep, 150. There, exactly what Google says to put the number of characters. Right? That probably didn't happen by random chance. They say they say shoot for 150 characters. Because you could set a little bit more and fill out both of those lines in that search, right? There's a little bit more space here, but they chose 150 to take human nature into consideration. If you used every bit of this space, people are going to think there's more and skip over it. But when it's open there, they're going to be like, oh, that's a short sentence, and read it. So shoot for 150 characters. That gives you some space to play with. A little bit more still fit on there. But that is where you get one sentence in the search results to convince somebody to use your website, which is a very important thing. Okay, if I erase this first part now. Sometimes all 30 sections fit on the board. There's only two more. I think I saw head nods. I'll get this out of the way. So the next one I've been alluding to throughout this semester as well. Do these sound familiar with things that I've been talking about? Knowing that this list was coming up in week 7. I'm trying to point to this. If you keep these in mind. I've been trying to work them into examples. This next one I know I've explicitly stated, and that has to do with our URLs. So those free URLs that we got from the free domain host aren't so good. They're not terrible, right? It's not like where we just have an IP address. I've done that before. When you first set up your cloud stuff, until you go buy a name, you just have a public IP address. You just have like an AWS server. So that's not a good way to promote a website. Human readable is better. And it does not have to be grammatically correct readable. That's human readable, right? People look at that and know what that means. So those things, the search box will recognize those as well. Just make sure it's human readable is better. Shorter is better. Again, this is 6 on a list of 7. So I'm not hard requirements. There's better or worse on these, but it will still have an impact. Try for keywords. And I'm going to underline try because this is like if you weren't aware that happened, investors went around and bought up a whole bunch of really good URL names, really good web names, and they sell them and then sell them for more. That's why I say try. So they had to buy them in advance based off the keywords they thought people would make sites around. So those will cost more than if you say use your own name or use your nickname or something you made up yourself. If it's keywords, it might cost a little bit more. But if you're going to make a lot of money off the website, that costing a little bit more is an itemized deduction come taxes. And when you're making really, really good software development money, remember you want those itemized deductions. A lot of people in college coming out of part-time jobs, waiting tables, maybe walking around the Amazon warehouse, putting stuff in boxes. Good paying jobs and stuff, but not at the level of money you'd be making with the software development. In particular, not at the level that the IRS is going to take a chunk. Not the same size chunk that the IRS is going to want out of it. So with software development, you want to keep an eye out for those things that can help with tax season. That's a big one from before, during, and after school. The amount that comes out of paychecks gets a lot bigger. Use hyphens, not underscores. I know that's the one I know I've said that one. Not underscores. Which is really back to this human readable. Only programmers use underscores. Everybody else uses the dashes. So use that so the search box look for that. If they see hyphens, they assume that it's like a side page or something, one that you would link to and it has some useful information, but it's not something you expect people to go to. Search bots are really very, very complex things. They've been building for a long time. That was the second section. And we'll get the last one on the list here. And all of these things, don't try to manipulate what the bots do. The programmers at Google take that personally offensive and they will hard code in and results. And then every time you show up on there, you'll leave. It's not a small number. They're not going to give you number 5. They're not even going to give you a 5-digit number if they get that hard coded in your search results. Snippets, which is another thing we'll probably we'll see that Monday. It's like metadata, only in our tags. Like metadata. For particular elements. It's on the list of odds and ends to look at next week because near the end, I like to keep class lecture kind of light with things that we might not necessarily need, and that way y'all can focus your time on the projects. Just the project has a lot of points coming up soon. So for example, we have this div tag and give it, we'll give this attribute item prop. I'll do it this way. I'll do 2 examples. Equals name, then we might have some other stuff. And then in there somewhere, maybe in a span tag of item prop equals description, which I ran out of room, but I'll abbreviate description up here. And then it's like small metadata that we can put on there. So it gives us key value pairs. Let me put an actual example up here, different color. Maybe movies. That's a common thing, right? We might have a list of movies that we like. So we'll have a H1 tag for the title of the movie. So we'll give it the item prop equals name. Yeah. And then name is the key and the value is what goes over here. So Iron Man. Then we end our H1 tag. So it gives us key value pairs that the search bots will use as a dictionary. For those who know that word. Then there's some other stuff would go with this, right? So paragraph. And then to show the user what we're talking about, we'll list out the director. I have no idea who directed that movie, actually. The starring. And then we can add a span tag in before we put the main name. So like item prop equals star. I'm just going to abbreviate it. We'd probably spell out Robert Downey Jr. But it's easier to type than write things out with pen. So again, it gives us that key value pair that can be used as metadata for our indexable content. The AI chatbot and machine learning things that we're starting to see in searches is alternative to what Google's been using. So if anybody's tried it yet, where like ChatGPT is used as an input for Bing. That's why they were promoting it, because they knew that was what they were going to do. So instead of that box to type in, we have a conversation with ChatGPT about what we're looking for. It's going to use these a lot more. So keep an eye out for things like that. That one's going to be more important going forward. And for those who don't know what a dictionary is from other languages, one type of a mapping. Working within our code, it's like that associative arrays. They're different when we get down to the CPU and work at the data structure level, but it's a subtle difference. An associative array is still an array, and a dictionary is a type of set with other stuff. But I'm going to key value pairs. Key, and then the value is what we actually have here. The key and then the value. Those are the 7 main things for search engine optimization right now, which is going to be changing because Bing just added the ChatGPT feature. So only a handful of people so far in the world know what to put in there. I know a couple of the things it looks at, but not necessarily all of them. I don't think it's going to be going around reading every web page on the internet to actually look at what's on that page. And if it was, it's not going to be able to make sense of it. All that particular chatbot does, it looks like it does a lot. All it can do is rank sentences. It still generates thousands of sentences, but what it's capable of doing is evaluating sentences that they some are better than others, and then it can make thousands of sentences and pick the best one. So that's really not enough to make sense of a web page. So there's still a lot of the traditional search bot stuff in there, but it's hard to say what it's going to be like. And then that's Microsoft's making the first attempt at that to hopefully get Bing to pass Google or something. But it's not like Google doesn't have one in the works as well. So we'll see that. But the first generation is probably going to pass very, very, very quickly, right? Like we'll see version 2 in 6 months, but then version 3 is not going to be around for 5 or 6 years. So once the idea is out there, other people are going to come in with ideas and expand. So it's going to be a dynamic factor. So, but our other search bots are still in use, so we need to be aware of this list. And the most important thing is that there are other things. These are 7 most important. 7 things it looks at. And the most important thing is don't try to control the list. Don't try to manipulate the list. The programmers of Google or Bing or wherever will get offended, and they will go in and hard code your search results. And you'll have a hard time ever overcoming that. But in general, the thought is there's certain things we can do to optimize our website. There's other things. Colors, right? Color theory is a big one. Color blindness. Some people have trouble with certain colors, and certain bots do have that program in to evaluate the color scheme and be like, well, these 2 sites have the same thing, but more people can see this site than this site because maybe there's a light red on a screen for people that have that particular color blindness. It turns into a really light tan. Sometimes blends into the background where they can't even see it. Or another example, what I wrote here on the board, I've heard people that have the color blindness where they can't see blue on a whiteboard might as well be writing with a white marker. So they look for things like that. I don't think the same thing applies to a screen, but the little things like that are known by the search bots. But lots of stuff they've been building for decades and get into complex little things. And like I was pointing out, it's a dynamic thing. But something to look into. Hopefully that'll give you a good start and to keep in mind. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so I wanted to end about 5 minutes ago. My recommendation for the active time today, as always, is an active subject we learn by doing, learn by making pages. I worked through that PHP thing. As soon as I end the video, I will email that as a zip folder out to you all, so you can look at that example and try to make little changes to it, adjustments. That would be my recommendation. For basically write stuff to a text file somewhere so you can save it. In your inputs, maybe play with some of the other inputs. See what a date input gives you, sends to the server to write to a file. Or the color input. What does that? If you put a color input there, give it a name attribute, send it to the server. What does that write to a file for you? Kind of look at what that is, because that'll be important. If not immediately, somewhere down the road. That's my recommendation. But I'm sure you all have plenty of stuff to do. We're in module 7 of the course, right? Or all the courses. Because everything should have switched to, except for very few things, everything should have switched to 8 weeks. All right, that was more than 5 seconds, and nobody asked any questions, so I assume you don't have any. If you have any, let me know. I'll see y'all on Wednesday, and we'll look at CSS animation.
Yes.